One and go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nerds of Legend. We're talking about Spider-Man today. With me, as always, is my good friend Ben.
In my awesome shirt.
It is a nice shirt. My good friend Joel. And of course, as always, my name is Brian.
A regular shirt. There's nothing to brag about.
But it's a good shirt, though. You guys like this shirt?
It's a consistent. It fits my personality. It's
there
just
we go.
there.
Brer Bear. Or Brer Yabbas. I love it. Or Baba Yagas.
It's the mobile homes for Baba Yaga. Anyway.
No.
So, yeah, we're talking about Spider-Man today. Spider-Man! Get me pictures of Spider-Man! So, for the sake of a brevity or a little bit of more, consistency and whatnot, like I know you guys are not exactly, we'll say, current on your comic book list. Mm-hmm. So if I mention things like Spider Island, you guys are probably not going to know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I don't know Spider Island.
Not.
I know some of the things, but not all of the things.
Which is fine. But I mean, like, you're probably at the very least passingly familiar with things like the Clone Saga.
Yes, I think.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine too. So, one of the hard rules I'm going to set for today's episode is that I'm going to try to keep it more to like broader media in general, as opposed to like, because if I focus on like things like comic books and whatnot, I have a feeling like I'm just going to get like blank stares. But also,
it's more like Spider-Man's been around so long that I feel you can hit current, and I think you could go back, and we'd all be able to jump in at some point in time because Spider-Man's been all over the place, and the cool thing about Spider-Man is though he's supposed to be based in New York, spends very little time, evidently actually in New York it seems, as of late.
He does bounce around quite a bit, especially in more recent years.
Yeah. I think the most recent I saw was Into the Spider-Verse, and that one was spectacular.
That's the other thing I wanted to bring up, because there have been many people to wear the webs, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've got, like, Spider-Man 2099, you've got Miles Morales, who was originally the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah. Spider-Man 2099, he's going on 25 years, I want to say.
Oh, yeah.
You've got Superior Spider-Man.
Yep, that was where Doc Ock was technically in Peter Parker's body.
Yep.
That's weird.
Yeah, that was a whole thing. But yeah, no, you've had like a lot of people to kind of like wear the webs. Of course, this is all without even getting into things like the Clone Saga, where it's all like, oh, hey, Ben Reilly is technically Peter Parker. No, Peter Parker's the real Spider-Man. You know what? Maybe we go back to Ben Reilly for a bit. Hey, maybe Kane's the real Spider-Man. Who knows? Again, if I dig into the comics, we're going to be here all day. So what I wanted to kind of do is I wanted to talk just about Peter Parker. Because, again, we could talk about, like, Miles Morales, who, by the way, is a way better Spider-Man, in my opinion, than Peter Parker ever was. But probably not if we... good idea if we open that can of worms.
I don't know. There's so many differences of what Spider-Man was to me as a kid. Because I remember, I'm older than all of you, so like, I remember still being able to... I reminds me back in my day, 1977, where you got to see the electric company. Yeah, no, they had, I don't know if any of you remember the show called The Electric Company.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But they used to have this little snippet of a live-action Spider-Man. And I loved it at the time because I was 5 and had no sense of taste. It was god-awful. Spider-Man was played probably by a 35, 36-year-old man who was unbelievably ancient in my 5-year-old eyes. And the effects were so terrible. He had a net that was like just a regular rope net, maybe 3 feet in diameter, and he'd do the gesture, and then off screen somebody would throw the net on top of somebody. And he would just be like, and the people would like hold their hands up and like pretend to be holding the rope and be like, oh, I'm trapped. But literally it didn't even touch their shoulders some of the times. And it was the greatest thing I've ever put my eyeballs on when I was a child. I mean, 4 or 5 years old. Oh my God. But in hindsight, first off, this Peter Parker was like super serious, I feel. Like if I remember, he was not the campy, shit talker that Peter Parker was. He was like, you've crossed paths with Spider-Man. And I was like, why are you so dark? Like,
when did fucking Batman get here?
Right. What the hell happened? You know better than to plot crime in my city. What? What the fuck is this guy?
When did Spider-Man go noir?
Right. Like, only Nick Cage can be noir Spider-Man.
I fucking
Which
love
I
that.
fucking love that one. Sometimes I let a match burn all the way down to my fingers just so I can feel something.
Anyway. He was like the best fucking pick for that. Anyway,
honestly, sorry, I'll end my monologue really quick, but I honestly, of all of the Spider-Mans, all of the movies, and I don't know if it's controversial or not, and I don't give a shit, that Into the Spider-Verse was brilliant. Like, I loved... There is not a section of that movie that I'm not like, this is great. From, like, the animation to the interactions to the music, everything was just this fantastic ride. I can watch that movie over and over. Like, I can watch it, finish it, start it back over, and be just as entertained. Like, that was a good, And now my kids do all the time. Play dumb. Not that dumb. They say.
I gotta agree with you. That was probably one of the best, if not the best, Spider-Man movie to date. I'm curious to what you think about the sequel coming out.
Oh, I'm very, very excited about it. Honestly, I'm very excited. I don't know. It's not out yet, right?
That's correct. It is not out yet, but they did release a teaser trailer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like I'm all about it. Like I remember the teaser of like Gwen popping into his room and, what are you doing? He's got like drawings of her. She's like, oh.
Right. Okay.
Come with you. But I'm grounded. It's just like...
Oh, is Spider-Man grounded?
Yeah.
So, Ben, let me get your opinions. What was your first exposure to Spider-Man as the character, and how exactly did you feel about Spider-Man at the time?
Probably my first... I mean, I remember watching, like, Spider-Man and Friends, but also... I think my first big exposure to Spider-Man was probably the original PlayStation games, like Spider-Man, like 1, 2, and 3, which are like to this day are just primo. Except the first one, which was because it was annoying because you couldn't you could fall off the map and it was just basically a linear level. But like the second one, where it was basically like open world. And I would just, like, run around and, like, hit bad guys with webbing and beat them up and then fly back up in the air and be like... There was no, like, restrictions on, like, your webbing, like, just went up into the air. Like, there was no, like... whatever. You could just, like, fly through. There was no, like, attaching to buildings or anything. It was just, like, an animation that was just straight up.
Now, to be 100%... Like, you're talking about the
like
Spider-Man
PlayStation
games that were based
1.
off the film?
So that I don't know, because there's like the original PlayStation ones, which were based off of like they were basically just like every chapter was a different villain sort of thing. So you'd like face Green Goblin, and then you'd face Rhino, and then I think it basically eventually ended with Shocker, and at least the second one. I can't remember the first one.
Was Electro, wasn't it?
Yeah, Electro. Yeah. So I remember playing the crap out of that one because I just like we'd like put in all the cheat codes and then just like be badass Spider-Man and just unlimited webbing, unlimited health, just like super like the super special suit and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
That was probably my first one. So you get like the Spider-Man quips throughout. It was pretty. That was probably my first Spider-Man. It's probably why I was like, I think I did like a Spider-Man costume like 3 years in a row for Halloween.
I think my first exposure to Spider-Man was the animated series.
So
Yep.
good too.
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, I wasn't impressed. Like, I look back at the animated series and I remember it with fondness. I still watch some of the episodes. But the DC animated universe was kicking ass at the time.
Yeah. I remember that.
And I remember like they had a ton of different like Marvel shows. They had like Iron Man, they had the Fantastic Four and whatnot. But the only two that people actually watched were Spider-Man and X-Men. And I was never really an X-Men guy. Like, there are X-Men that I like, but like I wasn't, actually into X-Men all that much. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't my thing.
Yeah. I definitely think that the Spider-Man is like, I remember like it'd be like on Boomerang or whatever, or Cartoon Network, and it would be like the Super Friends was always like so solid, and then they'd do like a bunch of like Fantastic Four, and you're like put Justice League back on, or like you know what I mean? Like it was. I definitely think it was in that camp. I think still to this day, the DC animated universe is a lot more solid than Marvel's, whereas like Marvel's basically like cornered the market on sort of cinematic sort of universe. But at this point, anyway, who knows what'll happen?
Thing that I've always kind of like done whenever I compare Marvel and DC is I always say that when it comes to Marvel, they're supposed to be like heroes that you identify with, whereas DC is more heroes you look up to.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's always been my problem with DC, was because like I can envision some like random dude getting like, I feel like whenever like in Marvel, whenever some random dude gets powers, like they're not guaranteed to be a good guy. They might try to be, but like they're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna like screw up. They're just like some dude that just got like thrown into this, crazy world of superpowers, and then they're just trying to get by. They're just trying to like use their, at least, in Spider-Man's case, great power comes great responsibility, which is kind of like the whole, I feel like, the overarching theme of Marvel. Whereas if you look at DC, when you look at a lot of things, I'm like, this is just like every single one of their heroes is some like paragon of virtue, like, and it's annoying.
Oh wait, I mean, I don't know.
Tell me.
We're
getting off track, but I feel like
we're getting way off track because like you could say that with a lot of them, but like you go to the Green Lanterns and the DC, and they go all over the place.
Well, the reason why I specifically bring up that particular difference of Marvel and DC in my mind is when it comes to Peter Parker, I think we as the audience are supposed to empathize with Peter Parker and his journey in, being Spider-Man and how it kind of takes a toll on his life, whether that's because it affects people that he is personally familiar with, or whether that's because, he has these events that happen to him because he's Spider-Man, you then see him have to deal with, sort of thing. Yada, yada, yada. Aunt May is dying. Oh no, something heavy fell on me and I have to lift it. There are certain things that just like happen to Peter Parker. But here's my big problem with the premise of Peter Parker. And I want to get your opinion on whether or not you agree. Despite the character being around for so goddamn long, it really doesn't feel like we've moved anywhere with Peter Parker as a character. Because the same things keep happening over and over and over again. And while you can acknowledge like, oh, that really sucks, the fact that like, he's getting fired from a job, or like the fact that like his love life is suffering because he has to put Spider-Man first or whatnot. Like all these things are certainly understandable, and even like to a degree like, oh yeah, I can identify with that.
Mm-hmm.
But he never actually learns from it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is my problem. Like,
I mean, there's Parker Industries at one point. I feel like there's been points where he's like risen above it.
Well, yeah, like for example, in the comic books right now, he's kind of like taken on more of a Tony Stark kind of role, or kind of like an Elon Musk sort of thing, where it's all like, oh yeah, I'm the leader of this company and whatnot, and
Thing is Peter Parker was created to go like, first off, like we've all heard the story of Peter Parker going against the norm, where Stan Lee is sitting in the office and is like, let's make this teenage kid, and he's pretty much laughed out of being like, whatever, and Jack Kirby was like, yeah, let's give it a go. And then they created Spider-Man. Everyone's like, oh my god, I can relate to this character. Like, I've been in high school, I've done this. They're not a hyper billionaire super genius that is able to, for some reason, like,
he's like Captain America's handpicked guy to be a super soldier who's a paragon of virtue, or it's not like, yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, he's got struggles. Like, what am I gonna do? I've got chores to do. I've got this.
I gotta make rent this month.
I disagree a little bit. Like, we have seen Peter Parker grow up, because I mean, you remember him as the high school student. You remember him as the and then the college student, and then like his
professional
relationship with Mary Jane.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on which one you follow, somebody's still with Mary Jane, somebody's not. The heartbreak of Gwen Stacy. Like Peter's gone through some stuff. The downside is, like, as far as with the pattern of his villains and his life is, I don't think you can actually get away from that. Like, that's who he is. Like, you cannot put yourself in harm's way and fight mobsters and fight supervillains and fight these hyper intelligent people bent on killing you, and then turn around and not have one of them do a quick Google search and be like, where are you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think the big thing with like why you don't see, like, you see Peter Parker sabotage himself over and over and over again because he has to give because Spider-Man is basically like, Peter Parker is the afterthought. Spider-Man is who Peter Parker is. It's not because he's basically a traumatized individual who's basically, if you look back at the root of his trauma, it goes all the way back to like when Uncle Ben got shot on the side of the road because he failed to act. Because, his whole thing is great power comes great responsibility. So he's constantly reliving this trauma of, there's one time that I didn't live up to my responsibility to use my powers for good, and Uncle Ben, the greatest man I have ever known, died for it.
Yeah.
And so basically everything around Spider-Man revolves around that singular point. That's why he will lose his job, he will sabotage his relationships, he will do all kinds of things to self-sabotage Peter Parker, because in the end he doesn't think he deserves success, and is basically punishing, is like subconsciously or whatever, is punishing Peter Parker for acting selfishly and not being Spider-Man in that one moment.
Yeah, true. That is unilateral, and in every iteration of Spider-Man it's always me last, like everybody else first. Even if he doesn't know who you are, that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And
everybody gets one. Everybody gets one.
Yeah. It's interesting because he has done that. But one of the things I've always thought was interesting is Batman has a concrete set of justice. All right, like Batman, the rules are the rules. He knows where they come from. He acts like he is legitimately like a paragon of Lady Justice herself. If like you'd find out he's like a D&D warlock with like a painter behind him of a blind person holding scales. You'd be like, yeah, that tracks. Peter Parker goes by emotional judgment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Peter Parker will... Like, Batman will look at a crime and be like, this is not one for Batman. You know, like, he could see something and be like, I have bigger fish to fry. Peter Parker would never do that. Peter Parker...
Yeah, he equally beats up the street
mugger.
thug, the mugger stealing an old lady's purse, and as well as like the supervillain trying to like blow up New York.
Yeah.
Because
Peter Parker
he's
a unilateral like vigilante. He is for all the people. And I
He's
think
your
what's
friendly
neat
neighborhood
about him-
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right. What I think is neat about Spider-Man is Spider-Man comes down to the fact of what would you be like if you were a child that suddenly decided you're going to be a hero. And the way it was, like Batman is a full-grown man. Like, that is a developed man with a developed set of morals. And he has decided to become a vigilante, and he's trained his whole life for this one. Like, once his parents were killed, he became this obsessive, like, machine to right the wrongs of the city on a great, and the world at a greater scale. Peter Parker was a nerd that got bit by a spider, like, tripped and fell, realized, I'm kind of stronger and faster than I used to be, and now is attacking, like, just, like, crime in a very juvenile way.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And he has persisted with that same mentality throughout his life. He's never moved past it. But he has moved past it in ability, but not in his scope. He will still stop the mugger. He'll still save the person from getting hit by the car. He'll still save, you know, your just
Mrs.
random...
Jensen's cat from the tree, you know?
Right. And then go off and fight in the Secret Wars with the Beyonders, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, Peter Parker does not have a bar of what makes him, of being like, oh, that's not Spider-Man's job. Like, it's all Spider-Man's job. And I think that's the appeal to the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, is because he is just as likely to come out there and do it. And he's a proactive one. I mean, he's probably one of the hardest working, other than the Punisher, I would say he's probably the hardest working vigilante out there. I mean, the Punisher literally spends years planning, and he's a freak. But, like, Spider-Man is on the job all the time. Like...
So then you guys more or less disagree with that statement I had before about Peter Parker. Okay, because...
No, you were getting coffee when we had said it. When I had said about how you said he didn't change.
Well, yeah, like...
I had said that I agree with it because of the way he chooses to live his life. And then we expounded on that point. What it is because of how Peter Parker constantly sets himself in harm's way as Spider-Man. And then in the world of... I mean, before, everything was reporters, right? Everybody in the Marvel Universe, you either were dead or you used to be a reporter. Those are the two character arcs you have for everybody else. It's like... It seems like my parents are dead, but before they died, they were both reporters. Weird. Like, everybody is a reporter in Marvel, I feel like. I feel like that's, like, the go-to. But I know I'm oversimplifying. A lot of them also are cops. But
Peter Parker's parents were canonically CIA agents.
See? It's always some form of something. But the long and short of the whole thing is now they're going into where, like, a lot of people in Marvel, like, super smart tech gods, you know? But
yeah, because they've got that fascination with, like, the Elon Musk type, you know? Yeah.
But back in the day, prior to the internet age, reporters were a source of information. They were the people that did the legwork and got the story and then gave it to you so you could read it and be informed. So they were like the Google search of the pre-internet era. And so Spider-Man constantly puts himself out there. These people would be able to find him. They'd hire investigators, they'd hire PIs, reporters, anybody to find anything. J. Jonah Jameson is one of the most, I love him. He's a despicable character, and he's a jackass, but I love the portrayal in the comics and in the movie. The movies are spectacular. Every iteration of J. Jonah Jameson makes me just so happy. And I can never remember the actor from the original 3 Spider-Man, from the Spider-Man movies in the early 2000s with Tobey Maguire. That guy, fantastic.
Literally, it's just
that guy was really the peak Jonah Jameson.
He is J. Jonah Jameson.
Bring me a picture of Spider-Man.
Yeah, perfect.
I kind of love that they turned him into Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where he was going.
You guys seen, this might be a little bit off topic, there is a storyline where J. Jonah Jameson realizes that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. There's a couple different instances throughout the comics where he realizes Peter Parker's identity, and both times he's is actually a good person about it.
Well, he's always been a good person about it. The fact that, because the whole thing about J. Jonah Jameson and the reason why he is the way he is because he himself has a very clear idea of what morality is and
accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Spider-Man has none, he doesn't like it.
Yeah, because I mean, to J. Jonah Jameson, he's spent his entire life trying to print the truth. You know what I'm saying? He's spent his entire life in the newspaper industry trying to be this, person who brings information to the masses. That's what he does and whatnot. And Spider-Man is obfuscating that process by basically, wearing the mask and, subverting justice the regular way. He could become a police officer, but instead he's a vigilante.
There's also one where someone, I think it was Green Goblin, goes to basically breaks into Jameson's office and
you're talking about the Sam Raimi.
Yeah, threatens to kill Jameson if he doesn't tell him who Peter Parker is as the source of the Spider-Man pictures, and he's basically nope, I won't tell you that. And it's
this
awesome.
shit comes in the mail.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's one of the wild ones. Is he gets put up as if you're looking at it from Spider-Man's point of view, it's always this adversarial relationship. But then when you take a macro look at it, he's constantly Paragon.
Yeah, that's what makes him such an interesting layered character. Is the juxtaposition of the fact that he does it because he believes Spider-Man is violating a certain set of ethics, and he's never once been he says he's a menace and he's a criminal and he's this, that, the other, but he's never denied that there are times Spider-Man does some good things. He begrudgingly will do it, but for the most part he kind of does keep them separate. He's not a bad character, he's just a jackass.
I can't remember
Except
which
Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home, he was super okay with just trashing Peter Parker's life. He was 100% cool with being let that kid burn in hell, which I was I didn't like that.
Yeah. I just thought there was an interesting one where they end up, Spider-Man agrees to an exclusive interview with JJ in his home, and they talk it out, and throughout the course of the story arc, throughout the conversation, Spider-Man reveals he's Peter Parker because of JJ has a breakdown over it, and then they end up JJ ends up being Spider-Man's sidekick for a little bit, and he basically helping him infiltrate some mafia thing or something. It's wild. It's you need to be more careful. You're being wild. You're being a wild card or something like that.
That's awful. I hate it.
It was amazing.
But back to the story of what we said before of why I think Spider-Man has this routine problem. And that is because he puts himself out there. And he puts himself out there unabashedly so people can find him. Like, eventually somebody's going to be like, hey, where'd Spider-Man go? He went in May's house over there. They're like, what? Holy shit. Wow. You know, where's Spider-Man? Well, he's saving that red-haired girl again. What? They're like, we got a whole group of people that put patterns together. Like, they just do it for fun.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so, like,
okay.
anybody connected to Spider-Man eventually is going to get, like, they're going to watch. They're going to be able to put the pieces together. Somebody paying tons of money in New York with like 8 million people or 12 million or however many New York has. Somebody's going to see something, you know, and he puts himself against the worst of the worst with pockets deep as the Grand Canyon. Like, they're going to, you know, somebody's going to turn him in.
I kind of agree with you, and I can see where you're coming from, but then I think some of the time it's just poor writing. Like, some of the times you can really see the hand of the writer where they just really want Peter to be in a particular place, and that's where I think I have most of my problem from. Because, like, take for example one of the more infamous like comic book storylines, One More Day, where Peter Parker trades life with his wife for, you know, basically his dying aunt to Mephisto. Yeah.
He trades his powers to his wife.
No. He trades his marriage to his wife. Like, basically, Mephisto shows up, like, because Aunt May's dying. She's at death's door.
He gives up Mary Jane to, like, so that Aunt May can keep living.
Yes.
Aunt May's been 94 since 77.
Yes.
Like,
except in the current continuity where she's a smoking hot babe.
She's super hot. But like up until like Spider-Man has amazing friends. Like Aunt May was the geriatrics. Yeah. She's so old she didn't notice that if you dust a statue, it turns into a fully functional crime lab in her living room. She just walks around with this dog that, I don't know, what is it, like a Lhasa Apso? I don't know, this weird long-eared dog.
Well, okay, to kind of get to my point, though, I mean, you can see very clearly the writers want Peter Parker to be at a certain point. They want him to be, like, specifically in this example, they didn't want him to be married. But they didn't want him to be married anymore in the sense that they wanted Peter Parker to have never been married because they felt like it artificially aged the character up and then people couldn't relate to him anymore. And so what they wanted to do was, instead of having him get a divorce because that would make him older because now he's a divorcee and whatnot, they wanted to basically retcon the marriage. So they had Mephisto show up and be all like, oh, hey, you know, it sucks about that bullet in Aunt May. I know that you've been to like every magic user and every like technical
heal her, but fuck that.
yeah. Everyone in the fucking Marvel universe, fucking Black Panther, Doctor Doom, Mr. Fantastic, Doctor Strange, nobody can save Aunt May from a fucking bullet wound. But don't worry, I am the Lord of Hell, and I will totally give you Aunt May back. Yeah,
that is lazy writing. But the thing, because like, Doctor Strange 100% could have done it. Just Stephen Strange, he probably could have done it, you know?
Exactly. That was something that people brought up because they were like, okay, wait. So why exactly can't, like, he gives the laziest fucking answer ever. He's all like, oh, magical cures for magical ills and whatnot. And it's like, dude,
he's
you're
like,
a fucking neurosurgeon.
It's laundry day. My curing cape is in the wash, you know. Go fuck yourself. You're like, you just tell me to go fuck myself? You're a dick.
Fucking Stephen Strange. God damn it. So
I mean, we have got literal mutants in the X-Men that is their shtick. They can heal. Forge can build anything to do anything. Like, we've got cybernetic body parts all over the place. Half of some of the characters on
just inject her with some Wolverine blood. It might it might fix it.
Wolverine can like lick her forehead and she'll heal. Like, I don't know. You've got Proteus, which was kept in a suspended animation, can literally warp reality into whatever he wants. He's like, bullet wounds? I can turn Wolverine's stomach into water, but I can't take a bullet out. Are you out of your mind? That's insane. You know, you got the Molecule Man who accidentally destroyed the universe. And that was like, oh, shit. Remade another. He accidentally destroyed a galaxy. And then, like, in a whim was like, oh, fuck me. Put it back. They're like, bullet wounds? You're kidding me? That's ridiculous. They all live in New York. Like, the Molecule Man lives in New York. Like,
oh, and it got worse because fucking Stephen Strange not only let Peter Parker break the laws of space and time so that he can consult with basically every single person he needed to at the exact same time across, you know, countries, across like time.
At no point did he use the Eye of Agamotto, the Time Stone, to be like, hold on. All right, just move her to the left. She won't get shot. He's like, now, fuck that. But I will do a collect call to the entire universe.
Yep.
Strangely, none of them have any cures for a 9mm slug to the chest. None of them. Not the Shi'ar. None of the ones that are essentially energy beings or the Beyonder or any of that shit. None of them have any bullet wounds. 100% fatal all the time. Absolutely not.
I feel like there's certain times where you just need to just let Aunt May die.
I don't know why.
Let her die in a nursing home or something. Like, I don't care. Just like let her die. Like, she can die of natural causes, and let Peter fucking go. Like, let Spider-Man go full ham because he's not worried about people figuring out his identity anymore.
I don't know. Like I said, I could just sometimes see the hand of the writer, and it bothers me.
Yeah, I think there's certain times where it's like. Spider-Man is there's so many times where he's considered just like a street level hero, but then other times where he gets written to be like basically like the strongest hero that can like go toe to toe with like Cap and the Hulk and stuff. And it's all right, which one is it? Is he a street level hero, or is he like a fucking like city level hero? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many times where I'm like, all right, like I get it, like he's been like, you know, like, oh, he can just like fly through the neighborhood, but his like power creep has been so ridiculous. Like, he can just basically like he can dodge bullets. You know, he's not Daredevil. Like he's a like, because Daredevil's like, I would say is like top tier street hero. Yeah. But like
he definitely is. Like, if it does not go outside of New York, he's not gonna bother.
Yeah, he's he's basically like, he's an Avenger. He's kind of like part of the X-Men. Like, he could do whatever because he's bigger, faster, stronger than pretty much anyone else. Like, and plus depending on the continuity, he's a super genius. So like,
he's always been a super genius.
It depends. Like there's certain ones where he's like he made his web slingers, and there's certain ones where he like is like they just like showed up. Like,
yeah, but like as far as I know, is Spider-Man's always like from his incarnation been one of the most popular characters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like he's been the cash cow for Marvel for like longer than.
And I mean, he came around in what I consider. I know this isn't the correct, but like I consider like Marvel's heyday, like their golden age was in the '60s. They came out with Spider-Man. They came out with Fantastic Four. I believe the X-Men came out in the '60s. It's just a lot of their like. They're still their major groups came out, and he just maintains. He grabbed the entire young generation of being like, "Oh my God, it's not."
I want to be Spider-Man.
Genius. It's not He's not like, you know, a brilliant, you know, elite like Reed Richards scientist or like a astronaut. Like all of them had these incredible backstories. And this is just like a nerd. He's like just a kid that showed up, so we all could like relate. And I remember a quiz that used to go around back in the heyday of like the first Facebook quizzes. like social media quizzes back in the days of MySpace.
Back
You
in
know,
my
back
day.
in the days of MySpace. No, it was surprised what they asked, which was they did a survey who wanted to be Superman or Spider-Man. Spider-Man beat Superman out, which is stupid. Because if you had to pick a power set, you pick Superman's. Because, I mean, you fly into the sun for a minute, now you're a gajillion. He's like a Super Saiyan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Super Saiyans yell, get their ass beat, and then they yell for 20 minutes. And they're 7 levels stronger than they were before. Superman gets punched in the face, like, ow, that hurt. Flies into the sun, comes back many levels stronger. Like, I don't know why you'd pick Spider-Man, but a lot of people did. Plus, you can't really move around with your web slingers in Montana because there's nothing to swing off of.
Yeah, I mean, you can just use the slingshot, but
Yeah, but I don't know. I think of all the characters I've seen, Spider-Man for the longest time has been the most relatable. Like when he's navigating his world. The Spider-Man scene where Joe Manganiello is playing Flash Thompson and is like, I wouldn't want to fight me neither, and then he just like dodges out of the way. Like all of us had that moment of being like, that'd be so cool to see. Or if some of us were bullied to be like the nerd, then now you're not the bully. Then now you're not able to be bullied. You know, like he has a lot of relatable moments, you know, and the way he interacts and the way he talks and, you know, his little smart ass way of doing everything. You're kind of, he creates something that we can hold on to. But the problem is you're right. It's hard to do stagnation. And it's hard to like grow when you're stagnating the character. Peter Parker cannot effectively be a 45-year-old man and hold the same mystique as he does. Which is why we constantly get these re-releases of Spider-Man, you know? Mm-hmm. And I do like, this is what made Into the Spider-Verse so great in my mind, is he's passing the torch. Like, he's still able to be Spider-Man. But now there's a new Spider-Man. And Miles Morales is a younger, more adapted to this generation, which I think is what they should have done, because then Peter Parker can move on and do whatever he was going to do. Which doesn't change the story, but the fact that every 10 years it seems like we got a reintroduction. Now here's Peter Parker.
Here's what should have happened.
20 years old, now he's 12.
Should have been every 10, 15 years. All Peter Parker, all the Spider-Man has to do is go bite some teenager, and then we get a new Spider-Man.
Bite? So like a crappy Morbius? Is that what he does?
It's Morbin time.
Yeah. I don't know. I think...
That's the best part of that movie.
What?
It's Morbin time.
haven't seen
Morbius?
it. Yeah, I have not seen it.
Talk about Morbius. I did see it.
I did not.
Oh my god, I'm horrid. And I'm a fan for any kind of comic stuff, but like, all right, we don't have a lot of time. I don't have a lot of time left. You guys have. So.
Yeah. Let's let's move on, I guess, because one of the other things I kind of wanted to talk about, and this is to me one of the biggest draws about Spider-Man, or rather Spider-Man's universe, because I feel like out of all the Marvel rogues galleries, that even though the Sinister Syndicate aren't exactly my favorite in terms of like what, you know, Marvel like villain, because I mean obviously I'm kind of a sucker for Doctor Doom. There's a lot of characters from like the underworld where it's like Blackheart and Mephisto that I kind of like.
I love Doctor Doom. Like Doctor Doom is fantastic.
I love me some Galactus. Yeah.
I'm all about the cosmic ones. Those are my absolute favorites.
Yeah. So, I mean, while Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery aren't exactly my favorite, I do think that they get a lot of things right that a lot of the other Rogues Galleries don't. In the sense that, like, Spider-Man has the most unique and identifiable Rogues Gallery of all the rogues in the Marvel Universe. Like,
almost go so far as to say any comic universe, to be honest.
Well, no, because I think that like the Arkham inmates would probably give the.
It's close, but like the Joker.
At least the heavy hitters.
Yeah, like the Joker and
Green Goblin.
Green Goblin, they're the same.
Well, they have visual similarities, certainly.
Yeah. Well, no, not visual similarities. Like, you immediately know
motivation.
1-to-1. Like, you see the Joker, you're like, Batman, Green Goblin, Spider-Man. Electro, you look at Electro and you're like, the fuck is that? Spider-Man. Like, you could tell what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think they're campier, too, though. Like, I do remember Electro with this big, like, lightning bolt headdress, you know? like the 3-prong lightning bolt. Dumbest, like, it just screamed what his powers are. I love how literal their names are. What are you? I'm Electro. Well,
I'm the Rhino. Yeah.
I've got a Rhino costume. Like, what do you do? I've
Lizard
got
Man,
mechanical arms.
Sandman.
Right.
I was like, what is this?
Man.
What is this? Mega Man?
Right.
Like, oh my god. Are you guys familiar with fucking Stiltman?
No, I'm a little upset.
Oh god, fucking Stiltman. All right, no, you know what? I'm not gonna get into it because I feel it's a longer diatribe. It's not worth it.
Well, no, I feel like we should continue this with this. This may be a good stopping point because I would love to spend next episode on the comics going over Spider-Man's villains because they're so diverse and they're so unique that we could spend a good deal of time talking about each one and their ridiculous motivations.
So here's a thought experiment. What would happen if you swapped Batman and Spider-Man's rogues galleries?
Batman would beat the shit out of them all in like a handful of weeks.
And the same would happen with Spider-Man's. They basically saw if you like picked up Batman and Spider-Man and went like bloop.
No.
No.
The Joker would destroy Spider-Man. Like I'm sorry,
but no, Spider-Man wouldn't take Joker seriously, so Joker would just get mad.
Joker has zero, like, if you look at the collateral damage of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery versus the willingness for damage in Batman's, the one thing the Joker has, and I think I agree with you on everything except for the Joker, because the Joker is willing to blow himself up to prove a point. Like, how many times has Batman stopped the Joker from, like, literally blowing himself up? While he's singing and dancing, holding, like, a detonator for, like, a bomb. He's gleefully watching Countdown. Like, the Joker gives zero fucks.
And then Spider-Man would just whip the detonator away.
Yes, and it would still blow up, because it's going to be, like,
I'm going to say something very controversial here.
Is this going to be the lead up to the next week's episode? You're just going to be able to pose the question?
I think Batman's dead.
Really?
Yep.
I think Batman's dead because of the symbiotes.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing.
Oh, I thought you were talking in Batman canon. I was like, I don't know.
No. Because of Venom and Carnage.
Yeah,
and all the other ones.
I mean, because in all honesty, not only are they super fucking tough, but also Carnage represents something like, because even Spider-Man had to grapple with this when he did the whole absolute Carnage storyline. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's like because Batman doesn't kill, and Carnage will keep killing.
I mean, he will absolutely
kills like it's a hobby to him.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Batman might be dead.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
I didn't even throw in the symbiotes. I'm just thinking
that's the rogue. That's in the rogues. That's in the rogues gallery.
It is. You are correct. I did not. I've always held Venom as something separate because he's been something separate. But you're right. He is. Yeah. And Carnage 100% is. But I've always since I've liked Venom since his first issue.
Joker. I think Joker would get mad because Peter wouldn't take him because Spidey wouldn't take him seriously. He'd just be like going.
Joker would do a massive amount of damage. But
anyway, we can disagree, but I think Batman would get like absolutely thrashed, and Spider-Man would like clean up Gotham. That's just me.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to leave that on the table for now. So then, am I correct, Joel? We gotta get out of here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have appointments. I have to get off to.
No worries.
I would like. This is me putting a request out to the group. I would like to continue this in 2 weeks. We've got our book, Ashes to Onyx, next Monday, where Missy will be rejoining us.
Unfortunately, I will not be available, or most likely will not be available next Monday due to some family travel stuff that's going on. We're still going to continue with next week's episode with the book. I will try and log on, but I can't guarantee how good my internet's going to be. So
That's fine.
But if you guys are willing, I would love to continue this kind of, casual descent, hopefully, into a deep dive into the world of Spider-Man next week.
I'll do Spider-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Is that what we're gonna call
Actually, I had an idea. I want to get you guys' opinion because we can do Spider-Man if you guys so choose in 2 weeks' time. But I have 2 other options I want to run by you real fast. We could jump from DC to Marvel to Doctor Who. Or how do you guys feel about the first generation Pokemon? Smash or pass?
I think I feel, first things, I feel we should devote a little bit more time to the Spider-Man. I would like to. Second, Doctor Who cannot be done in 1 hour. That's 60 plus years of content, not to mention that there is
Like
books,
Spider-Man
comics,
isn't?
and everything. No, that's what I'm saying. Continue on Spider-Man.
Right.
I think you have excellent suggestions, and that will progress the course for the next 6 to 10 episodes. I think we should continue.
I think Spider-Man and then
Spider-Man.
Pokemon Smash or Pass.
I disagree with the Smash or Pass, but I will do it for entertainment's sake. I would hope that we would get a lot of engagement for this one, but I would love to take into Doctor Who. Doctor Who would be a lot of fun as well, but I think we should spend some time on Spider-Man. I would like to really dissect our feelings of it. Maybe take some journeys into the movies, analyze some of the characters, whether we think they're ridiculous or not. Some are great that turned out to be some formidable characters turned out to be ridiculous concepts. Doc Ock is a ridiculous concept. He's a guy with 4 extra arms, but he is a formidable character. The Rhino is a super strong guy wearing a rhino suit that sounds like he's formidable. He's stupid.
Depending on which iteration of Matt Gargan you go for. I mean, he's either the Scorpion and he's just, single-minded and wants revenge on J. Jonah Jameson, or he becomes Venom.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack, and I think we should spend a little bit of time on Spider-Man. I think we did a brief touching on some of the characters of Spider-Man, and I think we should continue that next week. Not next week, that's the book, but the week after, if you guys are open.
All right, so how about this? In 2 weeks' time, why don't we put this down on the books? Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery versus Batman's Rogues Gallery.
Okay, let's
do that.
We could do that, or let's do that. 2 weeks from now, Spider-Man's Rogues versus Batman's Rogues.
I think we could come up with a little bracket for that.
Yeah. I can work something out for that. Yeah.
Would be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have to get going. So
thanks
Yep.
everybody.
All right.
We'll see you on Wednesday for a little bit more D&D action. And if you don't join us on Wednesday, we'll be back on Monday for some book talk.
Okay, and don't forget to check out our YouTube channel where you can find all of our previous episodes as well as all of our D&D episodes. We now have our podcast, which is on most of the major podcast vendors such as Spotify, iTunes, so on and so forth. That releases a new episode every Friday. And of course, we also have our various social media. So
we have a Facebook page now.
Oh, yeah. You can find us just about everywhere. Thank you all for joining us and have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.